The day he disappeared. The day I disappeared started like every other ordinary morning. At least, that's what everyone else thought. The city outside my apartment was already alive with noise. Car horns echoed through the streets, people rushed to work, and somewhere down the block a street vendor shouted about fresh coffee and bread. But inside my small apartment, everything was quiet. Too quiet. 'Cause inside that apartment, Daniel Carter was about to disappear. And someone else was about to take his place. I'm Daniel, 27 years old. A quiet graphic designer who spends most of his days working from a laptop and pretending to be normal. To the outside world, my life looks simple. I have a stable job at a small marketing agency, a decent apartment in the city, and a beautiful girlfriend named Mia. From the outside, we look like the perfect couple. But there's a secret about me that Mia doesn't know. A secret that has followed me for years. A secret that has slowly grown stronger, louder, harder to hide. 'Cause sometimes, Daniel disappears, and someone else appears in the mirror. I didn't plan for it to start this way. When I was younger, it was just curiosity. I was 14 the first time. My parents had gone out for dinner, and my older sister had left for a party. I was home alone, wandering around the house, bored. That's when I saw it. Her bedroom door was slightly open. Inside, her closet was filled with clothes. Bright colors. Dresses. Soft fabrics. Shoes that clicked against the floor. Something about it pulled me in. I told myself I was just curious. Just looking. Nothing more. But curiosity can be dangerous. Because 10 minutes later, I was standing in front of her mirror wearing one of her dresses. And I remember the exact feeling that hit me. Not embarrassment, not shame, but something strange. Something electric. My heart was racing. My hands were shaking. But I couldn't stop staring at my reflection. Felt like looking at another version of myself, one that had been hiding quietly inside my mind. That night, I promised myself it would never happen again. But secrets like that rarely disappear. They just wait. Years passed. High school. College. My first job. I grew up. I moved out. I became Daniel Carter, the normal guy everyone expected me to be. But every once in a while the secret came back. Usually late at night. Usually when I was alone. Quiet thought would whisper in my mind. Just once. Just try it again. And every time I gave in, the feeling returned. The thrill. The fear. The strange sense of freedom. It wasn't about pretending to be someone else. It was about exploring a part of myself that the world never allowed me to show. But the older I got, the more dangerous the secret became. 'Cause adults have relationships. Adults share their lives with people. And secrets don't survive long in relationships. That's where Mia came in. I met Mia 2 years ago. She worked at a cafe near my office. Bright smile. Sharp sense of humor. Kind of person who could turn a bad day into a good one just by talking. The first time we spoke, I spilled coffee on myself while trying to flirt with her. She laughed so hard she had to sit down. Through that, things moved quickly. Dates. Movies. Late-night conversations. Before long, she was spending half her time at my apartment. And somewhere along the way, I fell in love with her. Real love. Kind that makes you imagine a future. But love comes with a price. 'Cause loving someone means letting them see the real you. And there was one part of me I was terrified to show. Mia believed she knew everything about me. She knew I hated spicy food. She knew I worked late too often. She knew I had a habit of leaving socks on the floor. But there was one thing she didn't know. One locked drawer in my apartment that she had never opened. Inside that drawer were things I prayed she would never find. A long dark wig. 2 carefully folded dresses. pair of high heels, and a small makeup kit. Every time I opened that drawer, my heart pounded like a drum, 'cause I knew exactly how much I could lose if the secret came out. Mia wasn't cruel, but she was honest. And honesty can sometimes be more terrifying than anger. If she discovered the truth, would she laugh? Would she feel betrayed? Would she leave? I never knew, and that uncertainty kept the drawer closed most days. But secrets grow stronger the longer they stay hidden. And lately, the temptation had been getting worse. Maybe it was stress from work. Maybe it was the feeling that my life had become too predictable. Or maybe it was something deeper. Something I hadn't fully understood yet. All I knew was that every time Mia left the apartment, my eyes drifted toward that drawer. And the voice in my mind whispered again. Just once. Just for a little while. No one will know. Which brings us back to that morning. The day everything changed. The day Daniel Carter disappeared. Mia was standing near the door, putting on her coat. "I might be home early today," she said casually. Those words sent a small shock through my chest. "Early?" I asked. "Yeah." My meeting got moved. Maybe around 3. 3. That meant I had about 5 hours alone. 5 hours with the secret. She leaned over and kissed my cheek. "Don't work too hard," she teased. Then she grabbed her bag and stepped outside. The door closed. The apartment fell silent. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door. My heart slowly started beating faster. Because the moment she left, I could already feel the pull of the drawer. Quiet temptation waiting inside it. I told myself to ignore it. I told myself to focus on work. But my feet were already moving. Step by step toward the bedroom. Toward the drawer. And toward the moment that would change everything. When I finally opened it, the wig slid slightly over the edge. The red dress underneath it shimmered softly in the morning light. And in the mirror across the room, I could already imagine the reflection waiting for me. Not Daniel. Someone else. Someone hidden. Someone who only existed behind closed doors. Someone who would soon step into the light. 'Cause before the day ended, Daniel Carter would disappear. And the person replacing him might never be able to go back. The moment the drawer opened, my heart began to pound. For a few seconds, I just stood there, frozen, staring at the contents like they were something dangerous. Because in a way they were. Not physically dangerous, but emotionally, they could destroy everything I had. The long dark wig rested on top of the folded clothes. Beneath it lay the red dress I had bought months ago online, something elegant, soft, and impossible to explain if anyone ever found it. Next to it sat the black heels. And the small makeup kit. Each object carried a memory. Each one represented a version of myself that almost no one knew existed. A version that only appeared when the world wasn't watching. I swallowed slowly. "This is stupid," I whispered to myself. I had work to do. Deadlines. Emails. Normal life. But the silence of the apartment made the temptation stronger. Outside, the city roared with life. Inside, it felt like time had paused. And somewhere deep inside my chest, a strange excitement was beginning to rise. I tried to ignore it. I walked back to the living room and opened my laptop. Emails flooded the screen. Clients asking for revisions. My boss asking for updates. But my mind refused to focus. Every few seconds, my eyes drifted toward the bedroom. Toward the drawer. Toward the secret waiting inside it. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, but I wasn't typing. I was imagining. Imagining the soft fabric of the dress. Imagining the click of the heels on the floor. Imagining the moment I would look into the mirror again and see that other version of myself staring back. The thought made my stomach twist with both excitement and fear. 'Cause today felt different. Stronger. More intense than usual. Almost like something inside me had finally decided it didn't want to stay hidden anymore. I slammed the laptop shut. "Just 10 minutes," I muttered. 10 minutes. That's all. Just enough to satisfy the curiosity. Just enough to quiet the voice in my head. Through that, I would change back and go back to work. No risk. No consequences. At least, that's what I told myself. Back in the bedroom, the sunlight had shifted slightly, illuminating the open drawer like a spotlight. I reached inside slowly. The first thing my fingers touched was the fabric of the dress. Soft. Cool. Almost silky. I lifted it carefully. The red material flowed through my hands like water. Just holding it sent a strange shiver through my body. Why did this feel so powerful? Why did something so simple make my heart race like this? I didn't fully understand it. Maybe I never would. But in that moment, I didn't want to question it. I just wanted to feel it. I locked the bedroom door. Not that anyone could enter the apartment, but the small act made it feel safer. More secret. More real. The rest of my clothes came off slowly. Each movement felt heavier than usual, like I was crossing some invisible line. I folded my shirt and jeans neatly onto the bed. For a moment, I stood there staring at my reflection. Just Daniel. Ordinary. Predictable. Safe. But that version of me was about to disappear. I slipped the dress over my head. The fabric slid down my body until it settled perfectly against my skin. The sensation hit instantly. Soft. Light. Different. I exhaled slowly. The feeling wasn't just physical. It was emotional. Like stepping into another role. Another identity. Another side of myself. Next came the wig. I picked it up carefully, brushing the strands through my fingers. Long dark hair spilled down past my shoulders when I placed it on my head. I adjusted it slightly, tilting my head to check the mirror. Change was already dramatic. Not perfect. Not convincing. But enough to transform the person standing there into someone unfamiliar. Someone fascinating. A nervous laugh escaped my throat. "This is insane," I whispered. But I didn't stop. The makeup kit waited on the dresser. I wasn't an expert. Everything I knew came from tutorials and quiet experimentation. But over the years, I had gotten better. Foundation first. Then eyeliner. Then lipstick. Each small step felt like adding another layer to the transformation. Another piece of the puzzle. Another step away from Daniel. My hands trembled slightly as I worked. Part excitement. Part fear. 'Cause every minute that passed meant one thing. The secret was growing. And secrets are fragile. All it takes is one wrong moment and everything shatters. Finally, the heels. They sat near the edge of the bed like they were waiting for me. Black. Shiny. Dangerous. I slipped my feet into them slowly. The moment I stood up, my balance shifted. Walking in heels was always the hardest part. Each step required focus. Control. Confidence. But the sound they made on the wooden floor sent a thrill through my chest. Click. 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 The rhythm echoed softly in the quiet apartment. For a moment, I simply walked. Back and forth across the room. Feeling the sway of the dress. Feeling the weight of the wig against my shoulders. Feeling the strange mix of power and vulnerability building inside me. Then I turned toward the mirror. And finally saw the full transformation. The reflection staring back wasn't Daniel anymore. Not completely. It was someone softer. Someone elegant. Someone mysterious. A small smile slowly spread across my face. "Hello," I whispered to the reflection. Felt silly, but also strangely natural, like greeting someone who had been waiting a long time to appear. For the first time that morning, I felt calm, free, like the pressure inside my chest had finally eased. Maybe this part of me didn't need to be hidden forever. Maybe it was just another side of who I was. But that thought was interrupted by something terrifying. A sound. My heart stopped. Footsteps. Outside the apartment door. Someone walking down the hallway. My entire body froze. The heels suddenly felt unstable. The wig suddenly felt too obvious. My mind raced with panic. What if someone knocked? What if Mia forgot something and came back? What if... The footsteps stopped. Right outside the door. My pulse exploded in my ears. I stared at the door like it was about to burst open. Seconds passed. Long, painful seconds. Then the footsteps continued down the hallway and slowly faded away. I collapsed onto the edge of the bed, breathing hard. My hands were shaking now. That had been close. Too close. For the first time since putting on the dress, the fear returned stronger than the excitement. Because this wasn't just a harmless secret anymore. It was a risk. A fragile world that could collapse in seconds if someone discovered the truth. But deep inside, another voice whispered something dangerous. You liked it. The thrill. The risk. Transformation. And that realization scared me even more. Because the longer I looked into the mirror, the more I wondered something impossible. What if Daniel wasn't the real version of me? What if the person standing in the mirror was the one who had been hiding all along? But the day wasn't finished yet, and the biggest test was still coming. 'Cause somewhere across the city, Mia was already on her way home earlier than expected. And when she arrived, she might discover that Daniel Carter had completely disappeared. For a few minutes after the footsteps passed, I couldn't move. My heart was still pounding like it was trying to escape my chest. The silence in the apartment suddenly felt heavier than before. More dangerous. I stood slowly and walked back to the mirror. The woman staring back at me looked confident, elegant. But I knew the truth behind that reflection. Underneath the wig and the makeup, my hands were shaking. Okay, I whispered to myself. Time to change back. That had been the plan all along. 10 minutes. Just a quick moment of freedom. Then everything would return to normal. Daniel would come back. The secret would disappear again. Simple. Safe. But as I reached for the zipper of the dress, my hand stopped. 'Cause something inside me resisted. Just a little longer. The thought appeared suddenly. One more moment. One more look in the mirror. One more chance to feel this strange version of myself. I sighed and stepped back from the dresser. 5 minutes, I muttered. 5 minutes wouldn't hurt. Not when Mia wasn't supposed to be home for hours. Not when the apartment was locked. Not when the world outside had no idea who I was right now. So instead of changing back, I walked into the living room. The sunlight poured through the windows, illuminating the room. The red dress shimmered softly in the light. I moved carefully across the floor, still adjusting to the heels. Click, click, click. Each step felt like a tiny rebellion against the life I normally lived. A strange confidence started building inside me. Not arrogance, not pride, but something quieter. Something that felt like freedom. I stopped near the hallway mirror. For a moment, I didn't recognize the person staring back. Long dark hair, red dress hugging my figure, carefully applied makeup. If someone walked in right now, they wouldn't see Daniel Carter. They would see someone else. Someone mysterious. Someone new. The thought sent a strange thrill through my chest. And that's when everything changed. My phone buzzed. The sudden vibration nearly made me jump. I grabbed it quickly from the coffee table. And the moment I saw the screen, my blood ran cold. Mia. A message. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Hey, babe. Meeting ended early. I'm heading home now. My heart stopped. Home. Now. I looked at the clock. 2:12 p.m. She wasn't supposed to be home until 3. That meant she could arrive any minute. Panic exploded through my body. No, no, no. I rushed toward the bedroom, nearly stumbling in the heels. Everything suddenly felt like it was happening too fast. Too chaotic. Too dangerous. The dress. The wig. The makeup. All of it had to disappear before she arrived. I reached the bedroom door and froze. 'Cause I heard something terrifying. The sound of a car door slamming outside the building. My pulse spiked. That could be anyone. But what if it wasn't? What if? My phone buzzed again. Another message. Parking now. My stomach dropped. She was here. Right now. I ran into the bedroom and grabbed the wig first, pulling it off and tossing it onto the bed. My reflection in the mirror looked chaotic now. Makeup smeared slightly from panic. Hair messy. Dress half twisted from running. There was no time to think. I yanked the zipper down. The dress slipped off my shoulders and pooled at my feet. But in my rush, something went wrong. The heel of my shoe caught the fabric. I lost balance and crashed onto the floor. The fall knocked the air out of my lungs. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. And then I heard it. The sound that made my heart nearly explode. The front door unlocking. Mia was inside. Daniel, her voice called. My entire body froze. I was still on the bedroom floor. Half-dressed. Makeup still on my face. High heels still on my feet. My mind raced. Think. 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 There were only seconds before she reached the bedroom. I scrambled to my feet and rushed toward the closet, grabbing the dress and shoving it inside. The wig followed. The makeup kit. Everything disappeared into the drawer again. Except one thing. The heels. They were still on my feet. And the sound of Mia's footsteps was getting closer. Daniel, she called again. Are you home? My heart hammered against my ribs. I kicked the heels off and shoved them under the bed. Then I rushed to the mirror. The makeup. I grabbed a towel and wiped frantically. Foundation smeared. Lipstick faded. But traces still remained. It wasn't perfect. Not even close. But it was the best I could do in seconds. Then the bedroom door handle moved. My breath stopped. The door opened. And Mia stepped inside. For a moment, she just stared. Her eyes moved slowly across the room. Then they landed on me. Standing there. Breathing hard. Hair messy. Face slightly smeared. Her expression changed. Confusion. Concern. Suspicion. Daniel, she said slowly. My throat felt dry. Hey, I managed. You're home early. Her eyes narrowed slightly. Yeah. I texted you. I nodded quickly. Right, yeah. I saw that. She stepped further into the room. And every step felt like a ticking clock counting down to disaster. Her gaze moved around the room. The messy bed. Towel in my hand. The faint smudges on my face. Something in her expression shifted. Not anger. Not yet. But curiosity. And curiosity can be dangerous. Are you okay? She asked. Yeah, I said too quickly. Just working. She looked at the laptop on the desk. Closed. Untouched. Her eyebrow lifted slightly. Working. My mind scrambled for an explanation. But before I could say anything, something terrible happened. Mia took another step forward, and the tip of her shoe touched something under the bed. Something black. Something shiny. Something that slowly slid into view across the floor. A high heel. The room fell silent. Mia stared at it, then slowly looked up at me. Her eyes filled with confusion, shock, and something deeper. Something I couldn't read yet. My heart pounded as we stood there. Neither of us speaking. Neither of us moving. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. Daniel Carter hadn't just disappeared for a few minutes today. He might have disappeared forever. Mia bent down slowly and picked up the heel, turning it in her hand, examining it carefully. The silence between us felt endless, heavy, dangerous. Finally, she spoke. Daniel. Her voice was quiet, almost trembling. Whose shoe is this? I opened my mouth, but no words came out, 'cause there was only one truth. And once that truth was spoken, everything would change. Forever. Mia's eyes slowly lifted to meet mine. Waiting. Searching. Demanding an answer. And in that moment, I had to decide. Would I keep lying? Or would I finally reveal the secret I had hidden for years? But before I could answer, Mia said something that completely shattered my expectations. Something that made my heart stop. Something that changed everything. She whispered, Daniel, are you the one who disappeared? The room felt like it had frozen in time. Mia was still holding the high heel in her hand. I was still standing in front of the mirror, half-wiped makeup, messy hair, heart pounding so loudly I thought she might hear it. And then she asked the question that changed everything. Daniel, are you the one who disappeared? For a moment I couldn't breathe. Her words echoed in my mind. The one who disappeared. What did she mean? Did she think I was hiding something bigger? Did she somehow understand the truth? Or was she talking about something else entirely? My mouth opened, but nothing came out, because there was only one truth left to say. And I had spent years trying not to say it. Mia slowly placed the heel on the bed. Her eyes never left my face. There was confusion there, but also something softer. Something that didn't look like anger. Daniel, she said quietly, talk to me. My hands were shaking. I had imagined this moment 1,000 times in my head. Every possible reaction. Every possible disaster. I had imagined her laughing, or screaming, or walking out the door. But the real moment was somehow worse, because she wasn't doing any of those things. She was just waiting for the truth. And suddenly I realized something important. If I lied now, if I tried to cover it up again, the secret would never stop haunting me. So I took a deep breath, and finally said the words I had been terrified of for years. It's mine. The silence that followed felt endless. Mia blinked slowly. The shoe? She asked. I nodded. The dress too. Another pause. And the wig, I added quietly. And the makeup. My voice sounded small in the empty room. But strangely, once the truth was out, a small weight lifted from my chest. Mia sat down slowly on the edge of the bed, processing everything, trying to understand. You were wearing them? She asked carefully. I nodded again. Yes. Her eyes drifted to the mirror, then back to me. That's why your makeup is smeared, she said. It wasn't really a question, just an observation. I rubbed my neck nervously. I was trying to clean it off before you came in. A small, nervous laugh escaped me. That didn't work very well. For a moment, Mia didn't respond. She simply stared at the floor. And every second of that silence felt like an eternity. Because I didn't know what she was thinking. I didn't know if she was angry, or hurt, or disgusted. Finally, she spoke again. How long? Her voice was calm. Too calm. I swallowed. A few years. Her eyebrows lifted slightly. Years? I nodded. Not all the time, I said quickly. Just sometimes. Why? That question hit harder than I expected. 'Cause the honest answer was complicated. I don't know, I admitted. At first it was curiosity. I looked toward the mirror again. Then it just felt right sometimes. Mia watched me carefully. Right how? I struggled to find the words. It's not about pretending to be someone else, I said slowly. It's more like exploring a different side of myself. I hesitated, then added quietly, a side I never felt safe showing anyone. The room fell silent again. But this silence felt different. Less sharp. Less threatening. Mia leaned back slightly and crossed her arms. So today, she said, you just decided to become someone else while I was gone? I rubbed my neck awkwardly. That sounds worse than it actually is. Her lips twitched slightly. Daniel, I literally walked in and found a high heel under the bed. Fair point, I admitted. For a second, she almost smiled. But the seriousness returned quickly. Why didn't you tell me? That question hurt the most. Because I was scared, I said honestly. Of me, she asked. Of losing you. The words hung in the air. Mia stared at me for a long moment. Then she sighed softly. You idiot. I blinked. What? She shook her head. You thought I would leave you because of clothes? Well, when you say it like that. Daniel, she interrupted. I've seen you cry during dog movies. I winced. That was one time. 3, she corrected. Despite the tension, I couldn't help smiling slightly. But the moment didn't last long. 'Cause Mia suddenly looked thoughtful. Her eyes moved toward the open drawer, then toward the mirror, then back to me. Can I ask you something weird? At this point, I said nervously, nothing would surprise me. She tilted her head. What did you look like? My brain froze. What? When you were dressed, she clarified. I stared at her. You're curious? A little. I blinked again. You're not mad. Oh, I'm definitely confused, she said. But I'm also curious. She leaned forward slightly. So, my heart started racing again. Are you asking me to show you? She shrugged casually. Well, if we're already having the weirdest conversation of our relationship, we might as well go all the way. I laughed nervously. You're serious. Very. I hesitated. Part of me still expected this to be some kind of trap. But another part of me felt something I hadn't expected. Hope. Maybe the secret didn't have to destroy everything. Maybe the truth could actually build something stronger. Slowly, I walked to the drawer, pulled it open, and took out the dress. Mia watched silently. The wig came next. Then the heels. I turned back toward her. You sure about this? I asked. She leaned back and folded her arms. Daniel, after what I just walked into, yes, I'm sure. I laughed softly. All right. I picked up the dress again. And as I held it in my hands, I realized something strange. Earlier that day, wearing it had felt like hiding. Now it felt like revealing the truth. I glanced back at Mia. You know, I said quietly, this morning I thought today would be the day Daniel disappeared. She raised an eyebrow. And I smiled slightly. Turns out he didn't disappear. I gestured toward the dress. He just stopped hiding. Mia watched me carefully. Then she said something that made my heart skip. "Well then," she said, "let's meet the other side of you.